where we will go across multiple demos. So our session is demo-based about some cool stuff that you can do with the DBA tools that can automate your tasks and make your life easier.
So this is me. My name is Jess Pomfret. My pronouns are she and her. And I am a data platform engineer at Data Masterminds, where I'm lucky enough to work with Claudio. I do a bunch of database administration tasks and a lot of automation using PowerShell, especially using DBA tools. I'm also one of the main contributors for DBA tools, and I've just really enjoyed contributing and growing and learning with that community over the last almost decade now, which is cool. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Data Platform and for Azure. And I've written a book with Claudio and 2 other authors on DBA tools, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my name is Claudio Silva. My pronouns are he, him, and I also work for Data Masterminds. On my day-to-day job, I'm doing mainly performance tuning projects, making databases go faster. And when I'm not doing that, I'm also doing some automation with DBA tools and PowerShell in general. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Data Platform, and as I just said, a co-author of the DBA tools in the month of Lunch. So let's do a recap, because I don't know if everyone is familiar with the DBA tools, and every single day there are new people working with tools in the end, and maybe you are here listening about DBA tools for the first time. So DBA tools is a PowerShell module that is free, and nowadays counts with more than 692 comments. It was started with data professionals, and nowadays with also people from the PowerShell side and so on, helping contributing to these open source projects. As the security matters, so the module is signed, meaning that the code is, you will get the proper version signed off, meaning that if you have troubles in your companies and you need to explain to someone like this is a secure project or not, this can hopefully help you. And Jess, where we can find DBA tools in the end?
Well, as you mentioned, DBA tools is open source, and a lot of open source code lives on GitHub, which is where all of our source code is. So you can go out there and see exactly what the commands are doing and what the code was. What the code is that does those tasks. So GitHub is where you can find the code. Once that code is wrapped up into a nice PowerShell module and signed, like Claudio mentioned, it's then published onto the PowerShell gallery, which is where you can download it as a module for use in your PowerShell sessions. 2 other links on this slide that are super important is, first of all, the Slack channel. There is a whole community in Slack talking about database stuff. They started off as DBA tools people only, and it's just grown from there. There are channels on blogs, there are channels on speaking, there are channels on help, everything's on fire, I need help, those kinds of channels. So check that out if you're not already involved and chatting to people there. And the final one, as we mentioned, we are co-authors with Chrissy and Rob on the Learn DBA Tools in a Month of Lunches. We personally love this book. I learned PowerShell with the PowerShell in a Month of Lunches book many years ago, and just really love the style of like 1 chapter a day, learning a little bit each day over the course of a month. And so I was really honored to be able to be part of this project where we can do the same with DBA tools. It's super cool.
Yeah, and that's it. Our presentation is done. So see you next time.
Yeah, let's get to the good stuff.
Let's go and pick the good stuff in the end. So the way that we will be doing this is that we will have here some auto-spinning roulette that will give us a number, and that number will become
number 3.
The demo. Number 3, and of course, Jess, it starts with me. So
I didn't make it pick all your demos, I swear.
Yeah. So just so you know, for all the demos that we have between me and Jess, we kind of divided them, and I mean, this is a random, so we don't never know how many will be done by each person. So let's start then with the demo number 3 about deploying SPU is active. So I don't know if you are aware, but with the DBA tools, there are a bunch of community tools that DBA tools can use to automate the deployment. So SPU is active is one of those. And the way it works in the end is that it allows us to grab the version of the SPU is active and deploy across the instances that we defined for. So if I run the install DBA tool, DBA is active, and I pass my I passed two instances, DBA tools 1 and DBA tools 2, and I selected the master database as my database for deploying the store procedure. You can see here that it was installed. You can see which version was installed and on each which instance, and also the database that we selected. And this was like a couple of seconds. So imagine if you have an entire state with hundreds of servers, you can pass that list and it will connect to every single one and do this deployment. However, it may happen that you don't have internet access and your servers are not facing internet connection, or even your jump box where you centrally is doing the management of all your servers won't have internet access. But that is not a problem for DBA tools, because you can get the SPU is active from the internet, download it from where you have access, and if you copy that file over to your jump box, you can do the deployment saying the same two databases to the database that you want to deploy, and you can use the variable or the parameter local file. And this way you can point to your SPU is active, and if we do these deployments, what will happen in this case is that as I have already deployed before, DBA tools knows that, and now it says that it just did an update based on the script that I passed, okay? And also, we can use DBA tools to invoke the SPU is active. So depending on the way that you normally use this thing, in this case, SPU is active, maybe it will be fancy to use PowerShell to do the run. And in this case, if I invoke the DBA tool, DBA is active to a specific instance, and in this case, because I don't have anything else running, I can use the show on speed, which in the end is also one of the parameters that you have of the SPU is active store procedure. You will see that it will retrieve the information about what is running and all the properties like the session ID, which query was running. So the same thing that you get from the SSMS session as an example. Any questions about SPU is active or community tools? Because also Brent Lazar stuff and Eric Darling stuff, so a bunch of different community people that have free tools allow us to kind of incorporate these on the DBA tools and use it to do the deployments. So take a look on those, because maybe they are tools that you already use nowadays, and along the way, when you get more servers, you will want to keep up to date.
Yeah, that's a great point, Claudio. One of the things we love to do whenever we build a new server is put this on there so that we know it's there when we need it. And so you can use this to build it into your build process. So nice. All right, let's spin the wheel. Number 10.
Haha, it's yours.
It's me. Perfect. All right. So one of the other things we can do with DBA tools is we can create availability groups. So if you're using availability groups in your environments and you're setting up a new server and you want to create an availability group, you can do that right from PowerShell with DBA tools. You can see the command on line 19 is new DBA availability group. And we're going to pass in some parameters. We're using splatting here, which is just a way of presenting the code. Basically, we've created that hash table with the parameter names on the left and the parameter values on the right. And then when we call the command, we just kind of smush those in, and that's what runs. So if we execute that, we're going to create an availability group for our two instances, DBA tools 1, DBA tools 2. We've named the availability group Wheel of Fortune, of course. and we've added the pubs database. You can see the other settings we've set. We're running on containers within a dev container today. This whole environment is within the dev container. So we've got some specific, some specific settings because of that. But you can see that created our availability group just like that. If we can now view the availability group with line 32, cool, you can basically see the same information that we saw was presented from the first command. It's up and running. We've got our 2 replicas in there in our 1 database. So what do we want to do with availability groups? We're probably going to want to fail them over. So let's go ahead and run invoke DBA-VUG failover. And for that one, we're going to...
Another database to it.
We missed it. I'm sorry. Yep, let's go ahead and add the Northwind database with add DBA-VUG database. Cool. So now we've got 2 databases in our availability group. Perfect. Good catch, Claudio. All right, let's go ahead and try the failover. So invoke DBA-VUG failover. The SQL instance that we're going to call is the instance we want to failover to. So we started on DBA-tools 1. Let's failover to DBA-tools 2. And you should see, first of all, we get a confirmation prompt. It says, are you sure you want to do that? And DBA-tools uses a lot of this. If there's anything that is going to be something that's going to change a setting or delete something or alter anything, it's going to ask you if you're sure. So we'll say we're sure, but now we've got a failure. And the reason we've got a failure is we've got cluster type of none, because as I mentioned, we're running on containers. So in this case, we've got to force a failover because we don't have that cluster there. We can again add that force parameter and run the invoke DBA-VUG failover. And we should see the failover happens. You can now see the primary replica in the output is DBA-tools 2. Yeah. Magic. Cool. So if we again run get DBA availability group, we can see that it's looking good. We've still got our 2 databases in there. We've still got our 2 replicas, but our primary replica is now DBA-tools 2. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and fail it back over to DBA-tools 1, which is where we want our databases to reside for the rest of our demos. And then we are ready to spin the wheel again, unless there are any questions on availability groups and how you can use DBA-tools to manage them. I will say that it's not often that we set up new availability groups in our environments, but it is quite often that we have to add databases or remove databases or check on their status. So there's a lot of great commands that we can use for that.
No questions.
Good zoom in, Claudio. No questions? Okay, perfect. Claudio is a wizard with the zoom it, so he's in charge of driving today. This one takes about a minute to reset because it's got to tear down that availability group, which actually in hindsight, we should have added tearing down the availability group to this demo, and then that would have been even better. But here it goes. Here's the wheel.
Well, cool.
12. Back to you.
Back to me. So as a DBA, or even as a developer, sometimes we need to take a look on some logins and some permission stuff. And often it happens that we want to do some kind of cleanup or make sure that the permissions and the stuff that we have on our instance are up to date, and we need or not to do some cleanup. And using a bunch of commands from DBA-tools and also using another module, which is the import Excel, we can generate Excel spreadsheets or workbook in this case with multiple sheets that we can make a list of things to double check. So let's see how we do that. I will be using the get DBA login, so I can get all the logins on my 2 instances. So I'm using DBA-tools 1 and DBA-tools 2, and you can exclude logins, or you can even filter by specific logins. And with this, I'm getting just the logins. Now I will get my server role members because I want to know maybe like who sysadmins I have on my system. And as you can see here, I'm saving that on an object because it will be used later. Also, I want to check the DBA roles, the DB roles inside of each database. And in this case, I'm using the logins that I exported to double check which ones I have. So with this, we make clear that we have our file or our path clear. And now using the export data to Excel, so it's using the import Excel PowerShell module that lives side by side. And by the way, you don't need to have Office installed. You don't need to have the Microsoft's Excel installed on the machine where you are running this, which is mind-blowing. It means here then I can use a couple of parameters. So where I want to save my file, what is the name of the worksheet? I will create some table. I can even freeze the top row on this Excel table and give it a style so I can have these alternate colors so it's easier to read. And I do that first one. Then I do the same thing for my instance role members. And finally, I will do the same to my DB role members, and I will pass that with the export Excel with all the parameters so I can save this thing. Also, we can add rules, conditional rules on our thing. So in this case, I can say within my instance level worksheet, I can say, if you find the word sysadmin, please highlight it as a light pink. So let's see, I will add the rule, add the conditional formatting, and now I will close this Excel file. And let me grab here this file location so I can open on my local, because we are on the container, as Jess already said. And where it is, I cannot open.
Should be in your repo folder if you have.
Yes, give me just
wherever
1
this is
second.
open.
Should be here on the exports. Yes, it is.
Yep.
So if I open now, I got this Excel file with all my logins on my instance, if they have access, if they are locked or disabled. So you name it, you say which properties you want to get. If we go to the instance level, then we can also see here that I have all these sysadmins because they are on the light pink conditional formatting, and some other users. And also on the database level, you can also pick, we can pick here from each database what is the login name and what is the roles that they have for this name. Okay. Any questions on this option to use dbatools together with another PowerShell module? Again, the name is import Excel.
I've shared the link to that in the chat also.
Yeah.
That's a great module.
It's a great module indeed.
We've got one question from the previous demo before you run that.
Yeah.
We have a question saying, is it possible to change availability mode from sync, async, failover mode, and read-only routing values before the AG failover? And the answer is yes. There is a set DBA-AG replica command where you can change the settings on your availability group replica. And that includes failover mode, read-only routing, and the read-only routing list if you want to change that stuff too. And so I will paste that into the chat, which also brings up a great point that dbatools, all of these commands have great comment-based help within each command, and that is generated to this docs website. So if you go to docs.dbatools.io, you can see all the help on there too, and some great examples on how to use it. Awesome. All right, spin that wheel, Claudio.
Here we go.
Where are we going next? Number 6. It's me.
It's your turn.
Perfect. And it's backups and backup testing. I love this demo. Cool. So one of the most important things we do as DBAs is make sure our backups are good, right? So let's first of all take a look at the backup history that we have on our dbatools1 instance. So get DBA-DB backup history. We're passing in just one instance and we're sorting them by the start date. So you can see these are all the backups that have happened on my instance. Some information about the database, some information about sizes, when they started, durations. You can see these backups were all really quick because they're pretty small databases running in our containers. But if your databases were larger, obviously the duration wouldn't be 0 for all of them. We can also use DBA tools to actually do a backup. So backup DBA database will do a backup of the databases that we specify. In this case, we've specified database admin. If I left that blank, it would actually back up all the databases on that instance. And I believe by default, it does copy only backups to not mess up the chain. I believe it does. Do you think it does?
The other way around. You need to
other way around. Okay, there is a copy only flag if you want to do copy only backups. Cool. Yeah. Again, check out the help and it will tell you the defaults on that too. But are our backups any good? Well, the only way we know that if our backups are any good is if we actually try and restore them, right? So we have created a command, or DBA Tools has created a command called test DBA last backup, which takes the backups that you have, the last backups for each database, and restores them either to a second server, so in this case DBA Tools 2, or if you leave that blank, it will do it on the same instance. If you don't have a second instance available, it will rename, it will restore the databases with a different name. It will run dbcc, check DB against them, and then drop them. So if we go ahead and run that, Claudio, we're going to see the verbose output as we've turned on verbose, which basically tells you exactly what's happening. I'm just kind of nosy and I like to see that. But you can see that database admin has been restored. It was successful. The DBCC result was successful too, which means that it's not corrupt when it was restored. You can also see information about when we were able to restore up to. The backup dates at the bottom tell you the backups that we used. Neat. The nice thing about this is you can also keep this information. So if you look at the command that Claudio ran, on line 27, I've used out variable results, which out variable is a common parameter for PowerShell and basically means that any results that are shown to the screen will also be stashed into that variable. So we now have a variable called results with the results in from that command, which is super cool because we can then use write DBA data table, which takes a PowerShell object and writes it as a table in your SQL Server database. So here I'm saying take those results and stash them in a table on DBA Tools 1 in the database admin database. The table will be called test restore. And if it doesn't exist, go ahead and create it already. So if we run that, we will stash those results into a database table. And then we can use invoke DBA query to say select star from test restore. Let's see what's in there. And you can see some results, and it will be exactly what you saw on the screen, right? You only saw database admin because the other results were scrolling on past, but we've now got that saved into a database, which is really cool, right? Because if I automate this and every Monday I do test restores of my entire environment, I can tell over time how long restores are taking, whether they're successful, whether DBCC check DB has been successful. And if you come to me and say, oh my goodness, I've dropped something, I need you to get back to Northwind database, how long will that take? Well, I can tell you that I restored it on Monday and it took 2 seconds. So give me 2 seconds and we'll be back up and running, right? But if you've got an environment with a lot of databases, you're not going to remember how long each one takes to restore. So now you've got that stashed in a table and you can use that. It's really useful. Another reason this is useful is if you have SLAs of how quickly you need to be able to get your databases back online, you can tell whether you're getting close to not being able to meet those, right? And so if you're not able to meet them, you have kind of the evidence that you need to say, hey, we've got to do something different here. This database now takes 7 hours to restore. That's not cool. What should we do about it? Before you get to the point where you actually need to restore it and someone stood over your shoulder and you're like, well, we're at 25% and it's got a while to go. So this is really cool. And testing backups is so important. And this command makes it so easy. like I said, even if you don't have a second instance you can use, dbatools can help you. Obviously, if you have the space, restore it side by side and then drop the restored copy. Super neat. Any questions on backups and restoring test restores? If not, we will spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
Here it goes. There should be some music in here, you know? We made the wheel, but we didn't get any music. Number 4.
And it's me again.
Perfect. This is going well so far, Pa.
Yeah, so far it's going well. Okay, so here we want to talk about export DBA instance. So when it was the last time that you script out and think about a disaster recovery plan that you need to rebuild your instance, and all of a sudden you need to get all your jobs, all your logins, and a lot of other configurations that it's cool to have scripted out. So if you want to quickly redeploy those ones, you can do it. So dbatools has a command called DBA export DBA instance, and you can say to which instance or instances do you want to connect, to where you want to save the scripts that will be generated. You can exclude some of the things. So once again, double check the documentation, because you have the list of options that you have, and here we are excluding some stuff. And even to be compliant and with the security, you can even exclude the password, like when you are scripting out, for instance, a SQL login authentication type. So let's see what these will be doing. And this is performing the instance export, and the export the SP configure, some custom errors, server roles, logins, DB mail, server triggers, and resource governor information. Extended events also are backed up in this case, let's say. SQL agent jobs, and don't forget end users, user objects on the system database. And don't forget that we excluded some other stuff that could be done here. So in this case, if we go here to the export, then you can see here like our SP configure for our instance. So all the definitions that we have at the moment, these are the ones. If I go to the logins, I have here, and I have the password being hidden because I said I didn't want to, right? And but it exports with the seed, meaning that if you need to do that kind of disaster recovery and you recreate and you restore your databases, the user won't be orphaned and will be connected to the databases. And other example, the agent
One
jobs
question on the logins.
Like,
before you move on from the logins, we have a question about the passwords. And if you didn't exclude them, would they be hashed or would they be plain text?
So on the logins, it will be a hash, if I'm not wrong. And
I think so too.
Yeah, the thing about not showing the passwords is related with the linked server. So if you have a linked server that you use a user password there, there is a way to reverse that. And if you have enough permissions on the machine, you can revert that and get exactly which password was there. So to avoid that with your linked servers, you may want probably to use the exclude passwords for security reasons.
Good answer.
So now imagine that what would be cool with this, and I have done this before, and you have here a couple of blog posts that I wrote about this. What about source controlling these scripts? What about running these scripts like once per day or once per week, depending on how much changes you are expecting on your instance, and you you export these configurations, then you do like on GitHub or on other Git repository, you just do some commits and it will even make a versioning for you. So I don't know if it happened to you, it happened to me multiple times, that someone comes to me and say, hey, yesterday I was able to connect, but today I can't connect. My SQL login is this one, and it says the wrong passwords. And I could like go back and see that there was a change on this, right? Or yesterday I was able to select this thing, and today I'm not. And I went back and say, no, you weren't, because you didn't have like permissions to read data, and you still don't have permissions to have to get data. So with this kind of thing, you will be able to do something like this. So here is just an example showing that after we get our files, we can, depending on the names that we get here, but we can rename our folder to create it without the datetime prefix. So if these refresh, we'll get without the datetime prefix, and then we can copy our items to a specific location. And finally, this is comment out. I don't have a repo here, but you can commit this with like export DBA instance at a specific time frame and push it to your repository, and you will get that same information as source control. So there is a question about, is there a common behavior between export DBA database and start DBA migration? I'm not sure if I get the question right.
I think they probably mean export DBA instance and start DBA migration, which there is some common behavior, right? Because I think the scripts that are generated could be applied on another instance to basically do a migration. But start DBA migration also includes moving the databases and moving everything kind of one instance to the other. If that didn't answer your question, then add another line and we'll try again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're good. Yeah, this is another great example of using DBA tools for like a process that we can automate and keep track of our code. Number 1. All right, it's me again. Perfect. Did you change this so it automatically goes between us? I set it so that all your demos would come up. Yeah, I see that. Cool. All right, so this one is all about databases and how we can get database information with DBA tools, which is one of the it's a really simple demo, but it's so useful, right? Because we all have databases that we look after. So let's go ahead and run get DBA database, which just as it sounds, will get the databases from the instance that we've passed in. You can see a whole bunch of information is returned. Is it accessible? What's the recovery model? Collations, whether it's encrypted, the owners, backup information. So fast. Sorry, too many arrows. But you can easily gather all this information about your instance, about all of the databases on your instance. And you can also filter by name. So I only care about the database admin database. So I can pass that in and just get the information about that one. But what's really powerful about DBA tools compared to like Management Studio is that I can do it across multiple instances. So I can just pass in 2 instance names for get DBA database, and now I'm getting information across 2 instances, which is really cool. If you had 50 instances, you could run this against 50 instances and it would do just that and bring it all back into one result set. So there's a lot of information here. Let's go ahead and filter that a little bit with select object. Now select object, like you would do in SQL Server with the select statement, chooses the fields you want to see. So I've said show me SQL instance name and a recovery model. And I've got all of the information of those databases across 2 instances returned. You can see DBA Tools 1 at the top and then DBA Tools 2 at the bottom. This is a really neat way. If someone says like, hey, are all our databases in full recovery mode? You can fire this off across all your instances and quickly say, yes, all of them, oops, except one that I've missed or some, whatever. You can easily find that information. But there's more, okay? It's not just the result set that you see on screen. DBA Tools is dealing with SMO objects under the covers, which is what Management Studio deals with. And SMO objects have a lot more than you can see by default, because if we returned everything by default, you would be overwhelmed with information. But in PowerShell, there's a command called getMember, and this is a PowerShell thing, not a DBA Tools thing. But you can pass any object to it, and it will tell you about that object. So if I say get DBA database, one database, and I pass it to getMember, you can see all of the properties and methods that are available on that object. And if we scroll right to the top, you can actually see the object type. It's not just text. It's not just words on a screen. It's actually a database, a SMO database represented in code, which is super powerful because not only can I select properties, but I could also use methods. So like you can see the drop method about halfway down. If I save this database and I said database.drop, database is gone, right? I'm interacting with the object, which is super cool. But it also means there's a lot more properties that are returned, a lot more information that we can see. And we can pipe that to format list star, which is basically like a select star. And you can see all of the information that is returned. Again, you could quickly go across all your instances and see all this information, collecting whatever, like is auto shrink turned on? Across all my instances, I can tell you that it's turned off for everything. Super neat. And a great comment in the chats that says they've used DBA tools to pull from CMS registered servers or from a file, which is a great point. Any way that you can get a list of database instances, you can then use that to run PowerShell or run DBA tools against those instances. So you could get a list from your registered servers. You could pull them out of a text file. You could pull them out of a database if you liked. Super awesome. We've got a couple of questions. One question. In places like ours where we have no CMS, I've made groups of registered servers. Does DBA tools have the ability to run queries against a group, say production or non-group? Okay, great. So Jeff's kind of answered that. But yes, you can select servers from a database saying only give me the non-production ones, or a group of from your registered servers. Yeah, perfect. All right, the wheel is spun, and we're back to you, Claudio.
Back to me. And time to test our instance compliance. So are we running the latest cumulative updates? Are we running maybe 2 cumulative updates ago? And that is what we are aiming for. So let's see how DBA tools can help us with that task. So with DBA tools, we have a test DBA-VUG command that we can provide which instance I want. And as a start for this demo, let's say that I want to check if I'm using the latest on my instance, the latest patching. And by running this, we can see that that we are not compliant. Shame on me. But that is because we are on our containers, and we are on a 2019 with cumulative update 18. And here you can also see when the support will finish, so the common support, not the extended one. And in this case, you also see that this cumulative update means this KB, and the search that we did was an exact match search. More on that in a moment. So what about if I have 2 instances or an entire state, right? I can run it this, and I can see here a bunch of information about my instance again. So we have one 2019, but we also have one 2022. And this latest one, based on my information here, is compliant. And that is the instance number 2, okay? So what if you prefer to be like 1 cumulative update behind because you don't like to patch right away as soon as Microsoft make available the cumulative update, and you want to have 1 behind? So DBA tools got you covered because you can use the max behind a parameter to say, I want to check and I will be compliant for my needs if I'm up to 1 cumulative update behind. So if I run this again, in my case, what I see here is that, well, I was targeting to the 1 cumulative update behind, meaning the 27, but because on the 18, I'm not compliant. Sure, it makes sense. So now here, what if I make 8 cumulative updates behind? And this one right now will still say that we are not compliant, because then with 8, I should be on cumulative update 20. So in this case, right now, since that we wrote these demos, there were already like 2 or 3 cumulative updates. And that's why we are still not compliant, even if we say that I want to be, or I can be 8 cumulative updates behind. But just for you to know, you can use that way. Another way to use the test DBA builds can be interesting. I don't know if you remember like 7 years ago, probably, with the, or 8, with the Spectrum meltdown problem that existed. So let's say that you know for a bunch of the specific instance that you have, that you need to be on a very specific instance cumulative update or a patching level. Let's say in this case that I want to be on, my 2019s need to be on this version and my 2022 needs to be on this one. So with the test DBA builds and also using the get DBA build reference, if I run this, I can check if my 2 instances, or the 2 versions of my instance, the 19 and the 22, if they are or not on the, at least on this version. And here you can see that in this case, I'm compliant because the build level that I'm expecting to run, this is the minimum one, and that is exactly the one that I'm running. So if you have some kind of these needs, or hopefully we don't get again some of these problems that we need to check, but it's a good way also to do so. Also, now that we already saw the import Excel module, why not picking the information from the test DBA build and export it to our folder again, in this case again to a compliance spreadsheet that we can use to check if how we are. So imagine if you have again dozens, hundreds of instances, you can easily export these, check, do already here the filtering by being compliant or not, and then take the measures that you want. Questions about test DBA builds on DBA tools?
No questions so far, but the other piece to mention off the back of this is the website that also uses that information, right? So I'll post this in the chat, but there's a dbatools.io/builds website, which that did not post as a link. Let me try that again. I'll just post it like this. And you can see all of the builds in like a graphical website, which is also really useful. Good demo. I like that one.
Also, as Jeff mentions, update DBA build reference. So imagine on situations where you have again your jump box and you are centrally managing all your estate. If you don't have internet access, every now and then is important that you update your reference build. I mean, also if you have internet access, of course. What I mean is that you can also replace the JSON file that has all the versions where the DBA tools rely to double check these things. And based on that, then you can do all your comparisons, all your checks, and do the patching. Let's spin the wheel again.
All right, spin that wheel. Where are we going? Number 5. Oh, it's you again. The pattern has been broken.
We broke the pattern. All right, this time I want to talk about how DBA tools can help us copying data from one table to another. Can be same instance, can be different instance. And for that, we will be using a bunch of DBA tools comments. So this, I also like these demos because we can use DBA tool comments to generate some of the structure needed and so on to show it for you. So we will be using our source database being the Northwind. The destination DB will be an empty Northwind, and the table that we are copying data from will be the order details. And to create our empty database, we can use the new DBA database. So as you may notice by now, every single comment that we have that has the DBA prefix, it means that is from the DBA tools module. So in this case, I will create on my instance DBA tool 2 this empty database. So it's just, and you again check please all the parameters that you have here. and I will create a new database, and it just showed me, I just create a database. It comes with the full recovery module. He has 16 megabytes. It's running on compatibility level 160. So we are good. Now, we have seen before that we can use also dbatools to run statements to get data in this case. So let's say that I want to get a top 10 of all columns from my dbo.order details table. And here we are using the format table, so you can see the output of this as a table, and you can see that we got a bunch of records and its values. So now let's prove that on our destination table, this data does not exist. So instead of using the source DB, in this case, I will be using the destination DB and running on the DBA-tool2 instance. And if I run this one, we get even this here for saying no order details. So the table does not exist. So we cannot have data, which is okay. So copying data. You have here another blog post that you can take a look at how you can leverage on this command to do some restore of some specific data, for instance. And for that here, let's copy all the data that we have within our order details to another instance. And for that, we will need our source SQL instance, our destination instance, what is the database that we want, the destination database, the table that we will be using to grab the data and to insert the data. And if we don't have the table, we can even specify that we want to auto-create this table. And also you can specify a batch size. And this is a cool parameter because behind the scenes, it uses the BCP command to do the copy. And depending on how much data you have, you may want to fine tuning that with this parameter. So if we do this run, we got 2,155 rows copied in 124 milliseconds. And we can see here that this was from the DBA-tools1 to the DBA-tools2 and the source table and our destination table here. Okay. So let's check on our destination DB and again on the DBA-tools2 if we now have or not data insights. And now we have. So now with the top 10, we get the data that is inside. Another example is that instead of copying the entire table like we did here, you may want to copy just a specific amount of data, a data that respects some filtering. So let's say that picking the same table as an origin, I will copy to a copy of the order details, but in this case, I'm specifying a query where I'm saying that I want to use my source database and this table, and I have a filter saying that only records with quantity above 70 should be the ones that I want to copy. So this was it's just to mimic one example I had before where someone said, well, I did a delete, but the numbers that I put on the delete was the wrong ones. Can we recover this data? And database was not too big. I was able to restore the database, but instead of overwriting everything, I did a side-by-side, and using this command, I was able to do the copy of this data. So let's see here, if we run this way, we copy only 49 records, the ones that match the criteria, and that took 13 milliseconds. Let's see if we check which data we have. This is the 49 records, and you can see that all the ones that has the quantity bigger than 70. So it's another cool way to do so. Questions about copying data, moving data around with DBA-tools. So I may probably call out, and that is on the blog post, that if the table does not exist, it will be created, but won't create any primary keys and indexes and stuff like that. Also, be aware, depending on the values that you have on the columns, the auto-created table can create not so good data types because data types will be inferred. So mainly you can get like a text being a varchar max or an varchar max. So my suggestion is that you can script out that table before, script the file, compile on the destination, and then you point to that one and you get the benefit of having the things in the right way.
We've got one question for you on this. If there is already some data in the table and you're recovering just the missing rows, will that work with this?
Yes, because it will just do the insert based on the statement that we specified. Of course, if you have a primary key, unique keys, and by accident you get the same data like duplicated, it will fail like a regular insert would fail.
Yep, very true. And then another question.
We have 6 minutes left, just to let you guys know. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Another question about manually creating the primary key and foreign key. I think that's when you were talking about the auto create table.
Correct. So what I suggest, as I said, what I suggest in that case is that you can use the new DBA scripting options to select which options you want to script out, like the same way that you do on SSMS when you say generate scripts, and then you want to select export like the keys, the indexes, the compression definitions, and so on. And if you do that upfront, then you can use dbatools to generate this table schema, compile on the destination, and then after that you do this one. Or of course, if you feel more comfortable going to SSMS and script out the table and then compile on the other side, it will be the same outcome in the end. But check that blog post because there is information about that same thing there. So
I've pasted that in
minutes,
that link in the chat too, so it should be easy to click.
With 5 minutes left, probably we just have time for another one demo.
One more, let's go. Let's spin the wheel one more time. Where are we going? Who's going to do the last demo? Number 15. It's you again. This is perfect. This has been an easy night for me.
So I knew that you were a little bit bad on your voice, and yeah.
Ah, thank you. Appreciate it.
So cool. Let's see the last demo of today. So using dbatools to find the objects that are owned by a specific user. So another blog post. So you have a lot of literature these days to read and to get about these demos. But as the title says, when one of your DBA colleagues leaves the company, what is your checklists? So what happens with their login? What do you do on the database side of things to check that you won't have problems in the future because that login at some point will be disabled and should be deleted? So let's see here what we can do. We can use the find the DBA user objects, and by passing an instance, and in this case a pattern, which I passed as a SQL admin, what happens here is that dbatools will go to every single database that I have on my system, and it will check where it can find the SQL admin as being, because it's my login in this case, being the owner of something. So my SQL admin is the owner of the database called database admin, but it is also the owner of the Northwind, and is also owner from the toRefresh database, is owner of the endpoint of the iAvailability, which can bring you big pain, and also another endpoints. So this is a quick way to check if this login is part of something. And you can use the PowerShell format table, so to make the things a little bit more readable in this case. And also here you can use the out console grid view, because we are running this on the POSH version of the PowerShell. So it's like the how do you say, the command line grid view of this one, where you can check this information, filter, and so on. So where it will search, again, double check the documentation, but here is a sneak peek, because it gets database owners, job owners, credentials, proxies. If it is using inside of the steps as a proxy, endpoint, server roles, and if it owns any of these databases objects. Okay, so this is a cool way to do a quick check, like is any job owned by this login, and whenever the login will be disabled, the job will start failing, because now there isn't anything there. So be aware of that, and this can be on your checklist when you get colleagues that goes on new adventures and you want to clean up the house a little bit. Any questions on this one?
That was a perfect quick demo to finish us off. We've got one really good question on DBA tools as a whole, which is whether DBA tools works for managed instance and Azure SQL.
Yes, it works. So you can log in with MFA, with whatever is the authentication type that you need in that case. And other than that, it will get the information from there. So be aware that whatever are the limitations that you have with SSMS, for instance, for Azure SQL DB, that you cannot connect to, like, to the master database and stuff like that, that will be still the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, if you check out the documentation for Connect DBA instance, there's a bunch in there about how you can connect to Azure in there also. The other question we had was whether the update DBA build reference can use GDR patches or strictly CUs and SPs. And the answer is whatever's on that build site is used within the JSON and within those commands. And it does include not just CUs, but security patches also. The final question we had was, this is a great presentation. May we have the demo scripts, which we should have shared at the beginning, but of course you can. As we mentioned, this is all running inside a dev container, which if you don't know about dev containers, they're super magical. And you can pull down this repo, install a couple of prereqs to be able to run dev containers, and open this just like Claudio's got in VS Code and run through these demos. You can play the game, or you can just go through the demos one by one and enjoy what we've put together here. You can also run this in GitHub code spaces if you have the ability to use that. I believe you get 60 hours free per month for code spaces. And you can literally go to the repo, fork it, and then on the code button, you can choose code spaces and you can run this right in your browser. Magic. Okay, question for you, Claudio. Do banking projects allow DBA tools modules to be installed?
Well, I have worked for a big, not a bank, but a big company with within their most secure data center. And I just had to be a nice person and ask if I could install like a outside module and show to them what the module is about, that is signed off, that the code is visible for everyone. And whenever I show what I could do with that, they said, oh, are you not clicking around everywhere? Are you not connecting manually to everything? Sure thing, you can use it, please. So I think if you ask nicely and you show the reasons why you want to use it, and also what it was, I think it's dbatools.io secure. Let me double check.
Yep, I just posted that and that link in the chat. Yep.
Yeah,
it's a blog post exactly on that. Yep.
Yeah, if you check that blog post from Chrissy, you will have a bunch of information and how you should try to approach the security teams about it, and hopefully you won't have big problems with it.
Awesome. I think we're right at time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this presentation and we've had a bit of fun playing the game, but also sharing some great DBA tools knowledge. Appreciate all of the great questions. Do you have a coupon code for the book? There is a coupon code. Do we have a discount code?